You are cooking.
Okay, so what we're going to do is just a little bit of review since we've been away for a short time. And this is some of the things that I've talked about. And what we have for tonight just kind of pulls things together. And for me, it seems like it's the sort of thing that is necessary to complete the whole thought.
Yeah.
First of all, one of the first lessons we taught had to do with communication of a story and technical skills for analysis. And I'm not going to reteach these classes. This is just by way of reminder. I ran across this today online, and I thought, I'm going to throw this in here, having to do with technical skills.
A little louder for me.
Okay. And so the technical skills that we're finding are more and more not only valuable, but necessary if we're going to compete in a world where people expect us and expect everybody to have facts and to know things because it's so readily available. Ignorance is no longer going to be an option. It's as simple as that. This is the leader at Microsoft, and a article was talking about how he uses AI. And to make it interesting, it used words like secret and supercharge, and that caught my attention. It says Nadell is secret prompts that supercharge his workflow. And I looked at that and thought, well, this is actually quite interesting. And let's just look at it for a few moments. In a LinkedIn post, Nadella said AI's recent developments have added a new layer of intelligence across all his apps. Here are the 5 prompts which he said can supercharge your everyday workflow. First one, he types in, based on my prior interactions with, puts in the name of the person, give me 5 things likely top of mind for our next meeting. Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that will go through all of his personal correspondence and say, well, you've talked with this guy over the last 3, 6, 9 months, what year, and these are the topics and these are the comments that you saved, and maybe you'd like to refresh some of that. And you get that instantly, rather than going into a meeting and wasting a lot of time on where were we, what did we talk about, what did we say, so on and so forth. Then he says, types in, draft a project update based on emails, chats, and all meetings in this particular series, KPIs, key performance indicators, targets, wins, losses, risks, competitive moves, plus likely tough questions and answers. Give me some meat on all of the research that's been done so that when I go into the meeting, I will be a subject matter expert. And you can get that just like right now.
Yeah.
Just like right now. Then he asks, are we on track for the name the product launch in November? Check the engineering progress, the pilot program results, risks. Give me a probability. This would be something that my supervisor, when I worked at Microsoft, would have loved. He was always pushing us, engineering team, he used to call it a dashboard, where I can see where everything is, and then it'd be nice if it wasn't just numbers, but if you could color code it. And if it's on fire, please let me know. And because as a manager and a decision maker, it's vital. You got to have information, or you're making decisions and things on the seat of your pants, which is not the best way to run a business.
So this is the value of having most of that communication in writing in some form.
Absolutely.
And not just verbal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let me just say this. I mean, I learned this after, during my 15 years at Microsoft, is I would communicate with people and then I would follow up with an email. Or if I had communication in the email, I would follow up with a face-to-face meeting, because both have value.
Yeah.
But you can't just say something, promise something, and then 2 or 3 weeks later hope that promise is held. My wife even made me sign the marriage license. I mean, it's that important to document things. Review my calendar and email from the past month and create 5 to 7 buckets for projects I spend the most time on with a percentage of time spent and short descriptions. Where does my time go? What am I doing? How much time does that take? And then help me to understand, is it worth the effort? Why do I do these things? Review, select email, prep me for the next meeting in a series based on past manager and team discussions, which is obviously pretty basic. But looking at this, and it's like, this is wonderful stuff. Yeah. And this shows how the man who runs the most powerful, largest business in the world uses tools and what's important to him. And it's information. Then we also looked at another particular topic, and here's just some screens from that to refresh us. And this had to do with the creation and execution of a plan from an idea. I got this great idea, and I'm starting to germinate. It's growing, and it's in my heart, not just in my mind. And I'm starting to look at how much time I'm willing to put into this, how much money I'm willing to put into this, how much effort to make it quality. Poof, we quit. Okay, now we got another idea over here. Going from creating a plan from an idea, going from that, I have an idea, and I look back and I think, man, I thought of some things before they become a thing. What's wrong with me? Why can't I take it to that next step? You know, and it's because dreamers have to be doers. And it's as simple as that. And so we talked about that. And this all has to do with leadership. Because if you're going to, we're not talking about charisma when we're talking about leadership. We're talking about real nuts and bolts stuff that a person can become a leader under these conditions that they allow themselves to live under. And then we talked about this sort of stuff here. Complexity doesn't scare me. Systems thinking and understanding the parts. Everything in life is a system. My heart is a system, and it's a part of my circulation system, which is a part of my oxygen using system. Everything is a system. My telephone operates because it is a system. A family is a system. A church is a system. Everything has parts, and we have to understand it as a whole. But when we want to see what's working or not working, often we have to go down to the part level and look at the parts. And that brings us to what I want to talk about today: managing and leadership across silos. Okay, here we go. What are silos? Well, if you've ever been on a farm, and I've been on a lot of farms, I lived in a dairy community, and I know exactly what those are. And those are actually big thermos bottles. It's impregnated glass in the steel, and the silage inside of there actually ferments. And it's really good for the cows, and the cows love it. When your cows are dancing, you know what's going on in the silo. And so we see different types of silos. We see these little silos, we see the larger silos, and those silos up there that are connected on the top. And there's a reason and purpose for all of these different types of silos. Silos are containers. Okay, and it's important to understand that just like all of life, everything is a system. Throughout life, we have containers or silos. We already talked about system thinking, understanding the parts. Okay, well, there's the parts. And there we're dumping them out. Parts all over the place. What good are the parts if they're in that condition? A silo is a container. It's how we group the parts. And this is a silo right here. It's a container that you should have in your shop so that it doesn't look like what we just saw on the floor. And life is filled with silos, containers. It's how we group the parts. This is how we group the parts. We write things down on a notepad. I see somebody over here right now taking notes. Okay. And you've got that in a little book. That's wonderful. You also got a day planner where you keep track of information, probably different kind of information. If you've been doing this for any length of time, you've probably got bundles of these books. They're precious. They've got all the stuff that you're supposed to be doing folded up, wrapped with a rubber band and a string, and they're in a box somewhere. But you wrote it down, and if you ever opened it up, you'll either laugh or cry. But this is how we contain our life. Post-it notes on the fridge. These are containers. These are life's silos. And then along comes the laptop. And we've got a lot of stuff in there. Boy, we've got these files and folders, and we group it and all these things. And just when you think, finally, we've come up with a way to contain these containers, along comes the cell phone. Yeah. And it's like, now I guess I can just keep everything on my cell phone. And why you're taking notes, we'll never know. But it's something that I do. Everybody should do that. But what do we do with that we've written down? And so we have all of these containers, and often they appear in the form of emails. We've got all this information, and we sort on it, and we look for it, and we spend hours trying to group it, and how is the best way to do this? And when I was a manager, and I had people working for me, it would frustrate me if they thought that they had been successful in today's tasks if they were keeping up with their email. And I would explain to them, your job is not email. Email simply tells you what your job is. Now go and do it. But somehow people think if I can stay on top of my email, I'm successful. Why do we put the silage into the silo? To feed the cows. It's not just to keep the silos full. It's to feed the cows. Go ahead.
Insert something. I know that everybody's patterns are different. I'm very auditory.
Yeah.
I've never taken notes. My wife, she's all notes.
Yeah.
We operate differently. But when it comes to, like, say, grouping emails,
yeah,
I know I have the ability there, but I never do it because I have search.
Right.
And to me, search is the developing of a silo in the moment when I need it.
They say that a man with a messy desk is more organized than a man with a neat desk.
Okay.
He knows where stuff is. A man with a neat desk can't remember where he put it.
Because I use Docs.
Right.
Everything is in Docs. It's on the drive. It's not in my phone. It's not on my computer. It's on the drive.
Yep.
And so no matter the tool I pick up, because search is the value to me.
Yeah.
And the prompt.
Right.
But you can, because whatever words you choose to use for search, I mean, I can even search my calendar.
Yeah.
I don't know what I wanted to know something about Molly.
Yeah.
Dates.
Yeah.
And so I just type in Molly. Anything I ever entered about Molly, it's all right.
And so what that search,
I don't have to know when it was.
But what that search is doing is it's creating a temporary silo.
Correct.
It's a temporary silo. Yeah. And for those of us that like to make folders and groups,
yes.
I know that my email, once I'm building a house, and so I've got a folder for all the construction, all the information, all the building, all the bids and all that. And I know that once I put it in there, it's as good as throwing it in the garbage.
Yeah.
It's like out of sight,
out of mind.
Out of mind. And so we've got email.
Okay.
And then we have WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And then we have Facebook Messenger. Yeah. And ultimately, we end up with all these different silo opportunities that are given to us. And I think you're using a lot of wisdom. One big silo, please. Because you understand that once something goes into a silo, it loses integration.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to be talking about, but I'm getting ahead of myself now. And so, oh, sure, this is a good topic.
This is real life. So I will have a meeting with Brother Hart.
Yes.
We'll sit down for lunch, half hour, maybe an hour.
Yeah.
After the meeting, he will normally send me a recap.
Synopsis, absolutely.
Of everything that we talked about. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, what do I need that for? And I just realized that's not for me.
It's for him.
That's for him.
Exactly.
Because he's now got it in text format, he can go back and do a search and summarize, like you're saying.
Yeah, Nadelia could search on it.
And now I know how he has reached back and said, now, what about that thing that we talked about? You know.
I remember as a young church member that there would be evangelists that would come through regularly, sometimes every year or something like that. And they would say, the last time I was here on November 3rd, I preached this message. I thought, how does he know that?
Yeah.
Well, he wrote it down. Come on, it's not magic, guys. The guy, he's organized. It's not like he's like, I got this phenomenal memory. But ultimately, this is what a person's desk starts to look like. And whether this is good or bad, we start to realize that just our personal life and information and all of the way we interact with different things, we have to be able to get access to that. And these are silos. These are basically silos. And so then you have, and I'm going somewhere with this, believe it or not, there are what are called business silos. Okay, because business has taken this further than we ever will in our personal life because business monetizes this. This is how they make money. They have to keep track of things, and they call these segments. And these segments are very important to successful businesses. This takes us down to what they call data silos. We organize information, roles, distinct zones to keep things clear and manageable. But when those zones don't connect, it becomes hard to share, collaborate, or see the bigger picture. And so business understands that to be successful, you have to segment. But once you've segmented, you have created your path to failure because you can no longer collaborate, see the big picture, and integrate. And so the solution to one problem becomes another problem that seeks a solution. We're talking about managing and leading across silos. And remember, that's the theme here. This is a spreadsheet. Very simple. I use a lot of spreadsheets in my life. It's just the way I am. My calendar's a spreadsheet. I'm running my biz project for the house. Everything's in a spreadsheet. And you get multiple spreadsheets, and you get different types of spreadsheets. And you have all these tables of information, and stuff from here is somehow related to this, which correlates to that, which is fed from that. Or you're going to have to be doing double entry, triple entry, and it just gets really, really complicated. And so this is the failure of spreadsheets, because this is what happens. And it's like, okay, I see it. I've got a visual. I know exactly what I'm talking about now, and we've got this. What happens when this happens, not just with information, but in a business or in a team or in a family or in a church? And it's like, we're doing everything we're supposed to do. We're tracking, but somehow we're not on the same page. How is this possible? Well, it's not only how is it possible, how could it be anything other than that? Why should we be surprised? I pulled this from Microsoft because, again, I've got a lot of experience there, and this is real world stuff for me. I've got two things here: core financial segments and industry-specific cloud solutions. First one is the core financial segments. That's the investor reporting. These are Microsoft's official internal divisions for revenue and product tracking. And then you've got your cloud solutions. These are Microsoft also tailors its products into verticals through industry clouds. These are especially relevant to protocol design, modular curriculum development, and so on and so forth. I'm going to pull some words out here. Divisions, verticals. And now we'll get down here. Segments. This is from Microsoft. Somebody come in?
Hey, come on.
Hey, welcome, welcome. We'll just do a quick repack. You got that. Play it slowly when you get home. Okay. So we're talking about Microsoft Business and how that they, to run their business, have to break it into pieces that they call segments or verticals or divisions, so that each of them can operate as a small subset. And all of life is really filled with all these little subsets, and we just call them silos. And so that brought you up to speed. And these segments have to do with productivity, business processes, intelligent cloud, personal computing. That's in a nutshell, but it doesn't tell the story. But then when we take that further, we see industry segments. And in these industry segments, and I'm going to stay here, but you can see them up there, you've got defense and intelligence, education, healthcare, retail, financial services, government, manufacturing, mobility, automotive, travel, energy, resources, media, entertainment, telecommunication, consumer goods, nonprofit, and sustainability. And that probably even is bigger now. This was the area that I worked in for 15 years. And I worked on the back end with their database systems. And we used to call these segments, Steve Ballmer was at that time there managing the marketing. And we used to call these Ballmer buckets. And these are the buckets of the industry. And each of them had to report, each of them had their needs, each of them had their leadership, but they didn't always communicate well with each other. I was asked to go over to a different group at one time, and I had been in the IT department, and the general manager, he went to another group, and he wanted to bring me with him. And he was going to be in charge of Microsoft Exchange for all the emails. This is the back end stuff that runs that. And he says, Mel, I want you to come over and I want you to run this stuff. And I'm like, I got to look at it. And so I spent a couple days working with his teams. And I sat down with him. I said, Tim, I says, I sadly declined the offer. I says, your team, what you've got to deal with is a mess. And I says, you have a different version of Exchange for every industry segment. And if you have to make a fix, you have to make it separately and uniquely for every single segment. Do you realize how bad that is? And you want me to come in here and try to help? And he said, well, that's why I want you here. And I said, that's why I don't want to be here. Because these segments, they can evolve into their own worlds.
Would you call that Exchange a protocol?
It will.
You said different exchanges.
Microsoft Exchange is the backbone that runs Outlook. Right. And so these are all huge banks of servers.
Gotcha.
But there's a huge bank of servers with its own Exchange software to run Outlook for the automotive industry. Each is different.
Wow.
And a fix on one will require a fix on all.
I see.
And so it's like, this shows what happens when segments become so divided and there is no integration between them, no real communication between them, that you got to start creating artificial paths so that they can even work with each other. And it's like, can this happen in a company, in a family? Absolutely. Absolutely. And this here shows how it happens in a real world scenario. And I wish I had time to go over how they solve some of these problems, but that's not it. But these are silos.
Okay.
Silos are buckets that we put things in. We keep all of our junk in them, you know. We store things in them. They're bins, they're boxes, they're bags, they're our pockets.
Kitchen, bedroom, garage.
Junk drawers.
Okay.
When I was young, we had a junk drawer. We have 50 junk drawers in my house. Every drawer is a junk drawer. And so these silos become very different from each other, even though they're very similar. And you can't hardly tell the difference. But imagine if there was people silos. And that's really, because we're talking about leadership here. And we're talking about each of these is pumping out a different product of people. And because they're in silos, they really don't know each other. They really don't communicate with each other. They really have no interaction. And you wouldn't realize that until you try to talk to them about some things. And it's like, y'all from the same planet as me? You know? Silos really isolate. They really do. And so here's the thing. We're talking about leadership. Leadership across silos. How is it done? Now that we understand the problem, and we've seen it in the business world, and we've seen it in our own garages, and we understand how that this can happen, and we also see it on social media, where people can't communicate with each other because they come right up against these barriers that they built, and it's like, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is how I feel, and I'm not going to talk to you. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse. It's not getting better and better and better, just like Microsoft Exchange. Every fix solves the problem and makes it more complex for the next one. It just gets worse and worse. And so I want to talk about leadership across silos. I'm going to color code this just to keep it simple. Leadership is red, across is integration, and then we already know what silos are. So first of all, providing guidance. That's what I think leadership is. Yeah. Across is the integration, and diverse groups are the silos. And so we want to know, how is it possible to lead across this diversity, to provide guidance in some type of an integrated fashion to all these different groups that the world has created, that we have created, that we've created for our own convenience. So you're going to take a look at that in just a little bit. I want to say this right up front. Managers do not necessarily lead, but leaders do manage. They have to. And we hear this a lot. Well, I'm not a manager, I'm a leader. Oh, no, you're not. You are deceived. If you think that you are leading with no management, I get ahead of myself with the picture I have at the end, but you're like a train without tracks. Yeah, okay, good luck with that. I'm leading, but we have no rails to run on. Management is the rails. Leadership's the guy that's running the train. But you can't say that you don't need management. Management is infrastructure. You have to have it. And just because you have infrastructure doesn't mean you have a leader. But a leader must manage. They have to manage. And those that do lead do manage. Managers provide schedules, structure, processes, budgets, etc., etc. If you've ever watched The King and I, Yul Brynner. So they are the framework. That's what the building's built on. Leaders offer, and I want to use, I chose those words carefully. Managers provide, leaders offer. A person who is a strong leader, I'm sorry, I'm getting backwards. A person that is a strong manager, but not a good leader, will beat his team. Because he's going to keep them on the tracks, but he's not providing leadership. He's providing pain as an incentive. And so you see that. Man, that boss is mean. You're not following him? Follow him. I'll follow him in the bathroom and I'll kill him. Seriously, I don't like the guy. Well, he's a manager possibly. He knows what he wants and he knows how to do it. And it works, but he doesn't have a following. Leaders offer guidance, instruction, training, feedback. Feedback from a manager is typically you're fired. And so we've got the difference between structure and a compass. We see these things very clearly. And you say, well, we don't need a structure. I got a compass. You're never going to get to the third floor, buddy. You got to have them both. You just absolutely have to have them both. Managers establish networks, and we're still here. This is something you can get from a manager. They can devise all this stuff. They can create all this stuff. They can give us all of these things. But leaders develop people. You don't manage people. You manage systems. You manage calendars. You manage budgets. You manage agendas. You manage schedules. You lead people. And when you, sure.
In your own family.
Oh, no.
Is one of you more given to managing and the other one giving to leadership?
I think that's always going to be the case. Just like, my wife and I, we always talk about good cop, bad cop.
Yeah. I mean, I look there and I can tell you who I am. I can tell you who my wife is.
Yeah. Ideally,
together,
you got one of each.
Absolutely. She's the manager. I'm the leader.
Yeah.
It's always been that way.
There's the wonderful reason that, like the French say, vive la différence. What a wonderful difference. Yeah. And it doesn't matter which one is. We're not talking about who's in charge. We're not talking about who's the head. We're not talking. They're both in charge. They're both the head.
Yes.
But one of them is interested in the details and they provide the structure and the guidance, and the other one just seems to move things along. One without the other. And so, if I can get him to talk slowly, leaders generate their followers. Leaders generate their followers. Leaders create their own following. And it's been said, you're a leader? Look around. Anybody following you? No? Well, you're not a leader. Leaders generate their own followers. It's as simple as that. If nobody wants to follow you, you say, well, then nobody wants to follow me. It's their fault. No, maybe you're not a leader. Now, maybe you're a manager. And, this comes back to, like you say, work with what you are. Don't try to be what you're not. I mean, I've tried to spend my life to accentuate the positive, and to just, and just push back the negative, and let the I'm not all flower, but whatever is pretty, let that show, And my wife's back there like, I wish this guy would just stop talking. Diversity, equality, equity, inclusion. We hear all of these things constantly, but our whole society, our whole world, our systems really is in opposition to this. A couple of weeks ago, I put together a reel, and I got a lot of interesting input on this, and it had to do with inclusion. And I just want to give us a moment to just think about this while it tries to come up. Tries to come up. Maybe comes up. Up, we got to go back. I may not have. Oh, there we got it. Just play a little. You know the song, and just if you could read it. So when you looked at those two pictures of the one person begging to get into the group and the other, the group reaching out beyond itself to pull someone in, Can you identify with that?
In what way?
In a neighborhood, on the job,
Uh-huh.
in a family, in school, church. I ran into this at church, and I'm not being critical here, but when I first started going to church, I found that there was silos.
Sure.
There were silos.
Yeah.
And these are the kids that were raised in church.
Oh, yeah.
These are the kids that are coming from the outside. And we had a bus ministry. And I'm not being critical, but we just have to look at this. We create silos. And all the Sunday school kids running around, and everybody's happy, and then everybody goes, they sit down. And then when service is over, it becomes obvious. Those are the bus kids. They don't have any parents with them. Those are the bus kids. And it doesn't seem to matter. They could be there for 10 years, no longer riding a bus. They're the bus kids. How does that happen? It took me a long time to get out of the silo of, oh, that's one of those guys that came in from the hippie culture. Because I reached a point where it's like, I'm not going to be identified by that. I refuse to be identified by that. But it almost was put on us. You know, tell us your story. I'm not going to tell you my story. You know, and these silos, they show up on the job. They show up in school. A new girl comes to school. If she's pretty, the other girls will beat her up. She's going to steal boyfriends. Well, when I first found out about that, that shocked me. I thought girls were nice. They're not. Okay, so I want to talk about church a little bit here, since that was a gospel-y type song. Here we have a structure. We have the worship. We have the worship and arts. We've got the hospitality team. We've got the AV team. And underneath, we've got the ordinances, signature events, bands, vocals, seasonal choir. I pulled this offline. I didn't make this up. Ushers, greeters, welcome table. We've got the chair team, the refreshments, digital presence, audio, live streaming, stage, visual setup. I thought, oh, this kind of works. This is kind of the way we group people. And this is what, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with grouping people. Some people put away the chairs. Some people play the drums. Some people, they're in the music group. Some people are in the teaching in ministry. But we somehow have a tendency, birds of a feather flock together. And so these silos that are created around these simple things have a tendency to segment even a church body. And it's like, well, how do we integrate that? Because we're talking about leadership across silos. So we forgot a line here. Okay, there's something here that was completely left out. We've got ministers with seniors, youth ministries, children ministries coordinator, lead nursery attendant, nursery attendants. And so now we start to sub-segment into age groups. It's not just male, female. Now it's you're old, you're young, you have children, you don't have children. And so we're getting these silos, smaller silos within silos. We've got the Sunday school. We've got the bus ministry. We've got visitor retention. Over here, we have discipleship. And as we create these different ministries and groups, and there's nothing wrong with this, we're talking structure here. This is stuff that needs to be managed. And we're going to do it. You can't not do it. If you don't do it, you're probably going to have a tad of a mess. If you suddenly have elderly people wandering into the nursery class to be taught. Oh, this is just for the little kids. Oh, I get it. Thank you very much. I'll go where people look like me. And so you learn how to find the right silos. And this is the structure. But the structure is not leadership. This is the tracks. These are the buckets. These are the emails. These are the folders. These are the drawers. But we're talking about leadership. Yeah, this is the segments. And so if we're going to have true leadership on the job, in the school, even in the neighborhood, or in the family, and especially in the church, how do we lead across these segments? You say, well, we've got 50 in Sunday school. Do you know any of them? I know there's 50. We're still talking about leadership across silos. This is starting a new church. There's the pastor. And here's some folks. And so right away, we create a workers silo. These are the people that are going to help out here. These are the ones that we can use. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the other guy, he's having some serious issues with drugs. Okay? And so we get that. And over here, these are what we would call the prospects. These are people that have been coming to church, and we're hoping that we can bring the gospel to them. Ultimately, someday all these silos will be gone, and we're all going to be in heaven, and we're not going to have to deal with this stuff, I hope. Okay? And so these prospects are over here, and the workers are over here. Sometimes, and it sounds like I'm picking it, I'm not. Sometimes this small little church, after church, they were going to go out and get something to eat. And the workers, they're going to eat over here. And the other folks, they go to the same church, but they're going to eat over here. Can anybody see anything wrong with that picture? How is the worker ever going to really know the prospect? How is the prospect ever going to learn anything deep and personal of value rather than just a short sermon from the workers? Well, that's the only way we communicate. You know, I speak every 3 months, and they can hear what I have to say. I don't know that that's enough. And as the church grows, now what's going on? Better make another bucket. We're going to call that the peer group. The peer group, these are people that just naturally have an affinity. There's another word for this. It's called a clique. Okay? We like each other. We've got some things in common. Okay? And so you would say, well, maybe you should try to push beyond your boundaries, push beyond your comfort zone. Try to not be always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They used to say that's 4 and no more. Have you ever thought that if you want the prospects to really get out of that and become a member of the full holistic body of Christ, you're going to have to come up with some way to connect this stuff? I'm talking about leadership here, because this is the goal. That's the goal. And this is the process that we just automatically follow because humans like to group. That's why we have pockets in our pants. Yeah, I love discussion.
I had a conversation recently, a couple months ago, listening to somebody who was struggling. And they said, this church has cliques. And they said, somebody else said the same thing. And considering the source of who was saying this, number one, every group, every society that I have ever been a part of, they all have cliques.
Spreadsheets.
So it's not that this church has cliques.
Society.
Any group of people gather to like-minded, or I feel comfortable talking to you, I don't feel comfortable talking to them. And typically, and I mean, and oftentimes, it's people who have disqualified themselves to some degree with society, that they find themselves alone, and now everybody else is a clique because they don't feel readily accepted. They would be readily accepted if they would stand up, get off their seat, go say hi. You follow me?
Yeah.
And we were at dinner the other night with a group of people, and one of them was Ben Bass, okay? And I made a statement we were talking about connecting with various peoples, and I said, I think I've determined that I can connect pretty regularly with about 5 people. In other words, I might connect with Brother Casa, Brother Bartel, Brother Berglund, Brother Doyle, because he needs somebody to connect with him.
Sure, sure.
And so on a regular basis, I'm touching base. It's not ongoing. It's not a big, huge friendship. I'm staying connected with various people. I can't connect with 20. Okay. This is what Ben says. The Army says you can only connect with 3.
Yeah, I'm not going
And
to.
they
Yeah,
build their whole system around you've got 3, you've got 3, you've got 3. And I really was drawn to that paradigm in that, number one, my pastor, I watched him. He mentored, I'm going to talk to the visitor. I can talk to you later. I'm going to talk to this visitor. I'm going to talk to that visitor, And I remember getting in trouble. I remember getting rebuked because the assistant pastor said, hey, I want to come over to my house. I want to show you something. He lived right next to the church. You could get down in the basement, come up in his house.
mm-hmm.
And so I said, oh, okay. Well, he's a leader. And he's saying, and I'm a new young guy. Hey, I got something I want to show you. It might have been like a raft he just bought or some crazy thing. Wow, did I get in trouble for that? Because I left before the people left.
Yep.
In the congregation. And boy, he raked me over the coals, and I took my breath away. Of course, I didn't want to ever displease him, but it was strong enough of a rebuke that I thought, I don't ever want to make that mistake again.
Yeah. And what he was trying to do was get you to integrate.
He was teaching me.
Teaching you.
Absolutely.
We've got to somehow find ways to have these arrows.
Correct.
But
I think to me, the greatest teacher is our action, our example in doing.
Oh, absolutely.
And if let's say there's 5, 10 key, I'll call them leaders.
Yeah. Key
people in a congregation, and if they all know this is my first line of responsibility. When we're closing the service, I'm looking around the room and I'm looking at what people are doing.
Yeah. If everyone's talking, I'm happy.
And but I'm just noticing, I'm seeing people's priority, different ones. And different people, there's some who are always talking to somebody who is just a recent visitor.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's that group in the corner they just talk to each other, and that's pretty much all who they talk to.
Exactly.
And then you got the group that's hands-on, they're picking up chairs, they're picking up equipment.
I'm okay, I'm just dancing with it.
Anyway, I used to, because I've heard this through the years about the idea of they're cliquish. And I've heard it in every church I've been in.
Oh yeah.
This church is cliquish.
Yeah.
What I've resolved is, what you just told me was, it's everybody else's responsibility to connect with you.
Yeah, that's what they're
The
saying.
Bible
That's
says,
what they're
if
saying.
you want friends, show yourself friendly.
Exactly.
Therefore, it's really your and I've told people this,
Yeah.
who told me that. Listen, I hear what you're saying. I know, but listen to me. You can't put the responsibility on everybody else across the room to come find you, find your interest, figure out a way to get you to talk.
Yeah.
You got to stand up. You got to go extend yourself and open a dialogue.
Yeah.
You don't need 10 people, just one.
One.
It's almost like pointing one thing, you got 3 pointing back.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so this, when I'm seeing this managing silos, I see that and feel that every week.
Oh gosh, yes.
You feel the responsibility of, managing the teams to work with each other, to engage with each other, to talk with each other, because again, that's the role of managing.
The manager manages.
Correct. And yeah,
Yeah.
I find it, obviously, if every person was exactly the same,
No, but they're not. They're not.
Not one of them is the same. Every single one of them's different.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what works good with this one ain't gonna work good with this one.
No. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a course of learning, I think.
Yeah.
And development, even as again, whether it's a manager or a leader, it is the continued development of that process.
Oh yeah.
And it has to be in flux.
Yeah.
Because the pieces are in flux.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
when you have a family like the Berglunds, who this is their nature, this is who they are. You don't have to tell brother and sister Berglund, hey, do me a favor, go connect with that guy out there at the door. You're already there. And so it's like your life's course has developed you to that place. You're not 20. You're not 30.
I wish I was 60.
But we got a bunch. We got a bunch who, again, they come into that diet, they come into the congregation, they come into the group, and they're still trying to figure out who they are, even when they've been in the church for a little while.
Oh, there are some that will never figure it out.
Yeah,
And hopefully they'll continue to come.
Yeah, you do, and you work with them as they will allow you to work with them.
But I've got friends, you would call them like a lone wolf, you know,
Yes.
and they absolutely feel more comfortable in that role. Don't try to force them out of it, but probably they're not going to be in a leadership type role.
Oh, no.
I've seen very few rabbits following wolves.
Yeah.
There's reasons for that.
Yeah.
So in here, and I appreciate that. That's excellent. So in here, you'll notice I've got prospects, peer groups, workers. So this is true in the church. It's true in anything.
Yes. Anyway.
I don't have leaders.
Gotcha.
Okay. I have structure.
Yeah.
I have people falling into the structures that we have created,
Yeah.
whether it's through socially, design, or something that's actually man-made. It's like, well, we're going to do it like this. It's a Sunday school class for 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
And to go from the prospect into the peer groups, they have to go, like you're saying.
Yeah.
You're not going to get them to go that way. They're going to go this way. And when they do that, they become, in a small microcosm, a leader. They lead the way, possibly for others. I went over there and I found out they're nice people. And I'm going out for coffee with them afterwards.
Well, see,
Come on with.
you have
Now we're leaking. The prospects are going in.
you have facilitated this.
Yeah.
Because you don't just bring one in. You bring two in on their own. They're sitting across the aisle from each other. They
Yeah.
don't even know each other's name yet.
No.
But when you bring them into a group of fellowship and communication, they discover.
We love inviting people into our home that have absolutely nothing in common with each other.
We took two couples out one day and they didn't even know it. They lived 1 block apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
They lived 1 block apart and they did not even know it.
Yeah.
Now they're talking. Now they're visiting.
Yep.
So as a leader, you facilitate that. Now I don't have to go and, now connect with both of them all the time.
Yeah.
Now they're connecting.
Right.
Now let me find another,
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. And so as they punch that hole, and then that doesn't mean destroy the structure. Don't get me wrong. It's not saying the structure is bad. It's
Break it
learn
into-
how to live with the structure
Yeah.
to get the train down the tracks.
Yes.
So here, the peer group, some of those have to say, I've got to get beyond myself.
Yes.
I've got to go and I got to take this seriously. I have a job to do here. I didn't come to church to be with my friends. I came to be with Jesus and a bunch of strangers. And that's what I'm going to do this Sunday. And so they punch through and now they become a worker.
Sure.
And this is a leadership path. And so then the workers then punch back toward the prospects
Okay.
and try to give them some guidance, some mentoring, some instruction, some help. Somebody says, well, everybody here is a clique. And so you say, as a worker, going back to them, push harder. The walls will come down. Push harder. And this is the cycle of leadership in structure.
When you and I talked about membership. We talked about levels.
Still got 1,000 things I want to talk about
I
that.
know, I do too. And I have the notes and I know where to find them.
You took the notes.
What we have is levels. That person who just came through the door yesterday, they are at the first level.
Yeah.
They've connected. Or they showed up. They
Yeah.
presented themselves. There's a certain amount of people that they stay at that level for a little while.
A little while, yeah, yeah.
Too long, hopefully. But you know, I see the need to teach, train, encourage, mentor. We want to go to the next level now.
And that's our job,
It's like
if we consider ourselves workers, to go and try to help them to punch through.
and it's just like children. You know, you have your child at the age where here, I'll put your shoes on. Here, let me do. Okay, and then it's like, okay, I want you to go make your bed.
Yeah.
And so we're not at level 1 anymore. Now it's level 2. Okay, now, Judah. I'm just pulling his name out of the hat. Go pick up all those toys in your room and put them in the big bucket. Okay. And so, okay, Daddy. Now they're at level 2. Now he's got a little sister.
He'll teach.
He was, hey, Chip, come here.
Daddy wants you to put those toys away.
That's right. But you see the various
In a family.
Right.
Exactly.
And it fits everywhere.
This is not complicated stuff.
No.
It's just, I just get to use a lot of color.
Except here's where the problem is. We have people that don't mature. They've refused to mature.
That's a whole different lesson, believe it or not. No, but I agree.
You
I
have
agree.
children that refuse to mature. And
Yes.
what happens? You become an enabler,
Yes.
right?
The temptation
Well,
is there.
We have adults. This is why I've used the term for years. We got a bunch of older boys. When fathers exited the homes,
Yep.
back in the 60s, the next generation, and I was in that generation, it was just older boys and their toys.
Yep.
Because the lack of that father to take them to the next level, they just stayed at the younger level. Bought guns, bought cars, bought trucks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's toys.
Yeah.
And I can remember, you know, I mean, there's so many areas that this fits in life that when you are no longer the focus, because up to the teenage years, you're pretty much it.
Yeah.
But once you pass there, you begin to focus outside of you. And I've watched where some people feel so uncomfortable talking to strangers.
Yeah.
Because they're still trapped inside that shell of it's all about me.
Yeah.
You know, you cross a barrier, a major barrier, when you, in conversations, you're not even thinking anything about you.
Yeah.
You know, you remember your name now when you stick your hand out. But you are, now your questions and your line of thought is, the next question, I'm getting more out of you because I'm learning you because I want to minister to you.
Yep. Yeah.
And then we just keep duplicating the process.
Yeah. And if this works healthy with leadership
Correct.
and they grow, then these can become larger, handle more balls, and this is how organizations can grow. This is divisions within an organization where marketing understands the need of engineering, production, and delivery and all that. It's like we're not in competition with each other. We each have our role, and we all get together at the table and eat in separate areas.
That's the general manager. And
Yeah.
That's the what you're doing right now in your house.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody.
Contractor.
Yeah. I'm contracting the business, and I'm on site several. My wife says, "How many times are you going to go there every day?" As many times as needed. You know, I'm down there. I got a shipment of about $20,000 worth of wood today. I'm down there making sure it's there.
Yeah.
You know, it's just somebody's got to. You know, but that's leadership. I can't say it's somebody else's job.
I had two thoughts this week about this. One was the statement Brother Bartell keeps making. Are you teachable?
Yeah.
And if you're not teachable, I can't build on you. I can't help you. We're done if you're not teachable.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is the fallacy that we are aware of. People think they want to be a leader, and what they really want to do is stand up front.
Oh, yeah.
You
That's
follow
not
me?
leadership at all.
Because that has no connection with leadership.
No.
The true leader, he never even thinks about being the
No.
fact that he is standing up front.
No. Yeah. No, absolutely. You're absolutely. I mean, this discussion is valuable. Probably this.
It is for me because I think about this oftentimes all week long.
And so what we find is that there is a structure
Yes.
that is both vertical and horizontal. And it's interesting, when we were looking at the Microsoft stuff, they said, we have these verticals.
Yes.
And they know exactly what this is, only on a $1 trillion business. And they have to make it work, or some other business is going to eat their cake. You got to keep integrated and working. And the way they did it at Microsoft, they're constantly reorging. He's like, you got this group, and this group is working successfully, and suddenly we're going to reorg. We're going to reorg. And now you're going to have a different manager, and now these people are going to work with other people, and people are coming in from engineering, and they're going to now be a part of the analyst group. Why do they do that? They have to do that because you cannot just be vertical.
So what's the value in that? You use the
Pollination.
term team
Cross-
leaders because they were always building a different team.
Yeah, well, again, the value of reorging is cross-pollination.
I see.
Okay, and the team leaders is, again, somebody like, say 3, in the military, whatever, somebody has to be watching out for something,
Yes.
and whether, you're the Pied Piper and you can do the whole village or whatever, but
Okay.
yeah. And so we understand now that all of this vertical and horizontal structure is something that can be managed.
Okay.
Okay? Now we're talking about leadership, but leadership can't lead without structure. And so if you have an organization or a group or a family that refuses to allow this horizontal structure to exist, or doesn't encourage this type of horizontal activity, they can't lead. Now they can lead one, choose one. Well, I'm happy with my group. I want to stick with the leaderships. We get together and the leadership, and I feel like I'm a very successful leader because my leaders that I lead with, we all pat each other on the back and we're doing great. And you have no idea what's going on in the other silos. So you have to have vertical and horizontal structure. And so vertical and horizontal structure, management, leadership, vertical, horizontal, grouping for organization, integration for growth. It's as simple as that. If we want to see healthy growth in anything, there has to be integration for growth.
Do you think the integration for growth is also to bring people into the bigger picture?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah, you have to grow your. Again, we've talked about church memberships. And there's a difference between the perpetual visitor
Correct.
and someone who is in covenant with the church.
Yes.
It's the difference between a guy that's dating a lot of girls in the neighborhood
Yeah.
and he's in covenant with a woman.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. And the Bible teaches that God is a God of covenant. And there has to be a place of agreement where we say, I will do this. I sign on the line. I am going to commit to what this is. And I heard a wonderful message. Somebody preached where it became my church. My church. And it's like, boy, that resonates because this is my church.
Which is the process of maturity.
People have asked me, I live in Dash Point. I drove, a long way to get to church. And I drive past some really good churches to get here. And they've said, Val, why do you drive all that way to go to that church? And I said, well, they're my friends. It's true. They're my friends. Yeah, I know these people. And I said, let me explain it like this. I says, at Christmas time, I said, we drive all the way across the city. And we drive by houses with all the beautiful decoration and the trees, and there's children laughing, and there's beautiful gifts and the food. And we go right past those to the humble little home of my mother. Why would you do that? Because that's what my family is. I'm not going to be attracted by the light. I'm not going to be attracted by the gifts. I'm not going to be attracted by anything. I'm going with family. How did they become a family? We're in covenant. That's it. It's as simple as that. We're in covenant. I am a member of this church. I signed up for this. I remember the day I interviewed the pastor.
And I must have passed the interview.
You passed the interview. It's true. Some people, they have an altar call.
Yeah.
I interviewed him at a coffee shop. As I'm looking for a church and I'm looking for someone that is kindred spirit to me. I needed somebody that I could respect. It's as simple as that. And so we've got vertical, grouping for organization, horizontal, integration for growth, management, absolutely necessary, structure, absolutely necessary. Fight it at your own loss. It's going to be that way. Learn to work with it. The walls will come down. We started with this. I'm just about done here. Managers do not necessarily lead, but leaders do manage. Managers provide schedule, structure, process, budget. Leaders offer guidance, instruction, training, feedback. It's the difference between the ribs of a building or the compass that guides a ship. And this is the picture that I have. It's a train on the track. We have to have structure. But structure will not grow a church. You got to have leadership that somehow is able to integrate all of these different pieces so that we will feed each other, minister to each other, edify each other. The Bible talks about this in Ephesians. The whole body fitly framed together, nurturing each other.
Yeah.
That's where healthy growth comes from, and that's where I go.
Let me show you. You know, I've been